What's going on? It's Clint, and I am here with one of my close friends, Anna McNeil, and she is in Florence, Italy, and just want to talk to her about a couple of things that are going on out there. I actually know her. I've known you for what, maybe close to 10 years now, something like that?
It definitely could be 10 years.
Yeah, something like that, 8, 10, something like that. When we take our groups out there, we always see her, and she's always takes care of us, helps us out. She's in the travel industry as well, so you're on lockdown now, huh? First of all, how are you? Are you okay?
Yep, super fine, doing really, really well. We're in day 12 of lockdown.
How did it progress into this?
I think a little bit differently than what you guys are going through. It's exactly the same in the sense that the information that was coming out so rapidly. So I think the most difficult part is the fact that you get information from the president or from the medical authorities, and they put forward like a decree or they take action, but everything then changes so quickly that 36 hours later, maybe you're getting completely new information and you have to behave completely differently. The one thing that happened for us first was that they actually closed. The first thing that happened was they closed all the schools. So all school kids and all university students went straight away out on lockdown, like essentially on school lockdown.
So all the study abroad students, all that just gone, or the local students?
For first of all, the local students up north, because coronavirus started in the north of Italy. So
That.
for us in Florence, it seemed real, but not so real. The first thing that happened that was really real for us was that, study abroad students started being sent home.
And at that point, is that when you were like, holy damn, this is getting serious? Or because
No.
here it's like for a little while, I don't think anybody was really taking it serious, including myself. And now it's kind of like, was it never like that?
No, I mean, we thought it was a bit strange. So the very first things that started happening in Florence, we thought was a bit strange. We didn't really know what it was. Like something big had happened in China, but this was the first time that anything in kind of our realm was happening. It was in Italy. So it wasn't like it's something had happened in America already or something had happened in Australia. Like this was really the first time it was happening in a country that we can kind of imagine what it would be like to be in. And so every day, like when we got more information, we're like, okay, well now we have to do this. Like bad things are happening. So one of the first things that happened was that schools closed. Then they cancelled all events. So worldwide, everybody knew that they cancelled the Carnival Mardi Gras celebrations in Venice. We're like, whoa, that's like a massive thing.
Yeah.
That's when you started to pay attention, because that's something everybody knows about. It's a huge influx of money for Venice. We're like, hey, if they're going to cancel something that's so important for a city that's, their livelihood really relies on that event, then something bad must actually be happening.
That's exactly how it's pretty much the tail end here. Everything's been canceled. NFL, like all that stuff. That's when I think everybody's ears started perking up here as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they tried to keep our sports going for a while, because obviously in Italy, the most important thing is soccer, football, what we call football. And they played closed doors for a while, but now the numbers of football players that have coronavirus is actually kind of concerning. Because, when you're playing sports, you're constantly traveling. You're always on a plane. You're always in another destination. You're always staying in another hotel to play a sporting match with a whole bunch of other people who have also been traveling, not only in Italy, but some of them are traveling around Europe as well for playing sport. And so for our local football team, we have between 5 and 10 people who have coronavirus.
Wow. Damn. So before I talk to you, I actually made a post on social media to see if anybody had any questions. So I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, and then anything you want to ask me, anything you want to throw out there, anything, just give us as much information if you could, please, because I think we're going to be where you are in a very short time. So, anything could really help a lot of people. I personally wanted to know too, what did you think about, and was it even accurate? Because sometimes, especially now, the information that we're getting sometimes isn't as accurate as we'd like, but the 10,000 people that fled, I guess they went south. And I heard about that because, as you know, we had a trip coming up. I was supposed to be out there to see you in May. So Did the 10 people really go down there, and what was that all about?
I think that was to do with Milan, like locking down, like with the whole kind of region of Lombardy locking back down again. And there was a leak of information. And so anyone who was there that was just there for business, or perhaps they're just there to study and they had families down south, they kind of got into a panic. And like I said, Italy is really first. So we didn't have other information to go on. So there was a little bit of fear, I guess. And people react in different ways to do with, when they're scared of something. And so it was a natural human reaction to try and get on a train to get out of there, because they felt like if they could get out of that region, then they would have a normal life. Like if they could get to Tuscany, or they could get down south to wherever their families were, that they would be fine. And I can throw that question back to you. And also, I'm Australian, obviously. Big news today was that 2,500 people flocked to the beaches of Bondi in Sydney, completely disobeying the rule of like having 1 meter or 4 feet between people, having social distancing. Everybody just seemed to think that coronavirus is not an issue, and they were out there having a party. Just like we've all seen images of spring break in Miami. So how do we feel about those people who have zero regard for public health, for the effects that could be having, for the fact that they could potentially be contracting coronavirus as they, drink and socialize with their friends?
And that's the reason I'm pretty much talking to you, is because I think this is going to help a lot of people. And that's exactly what I was going to ask, is because last weekend it was a big thing on social, and even between, like, I'm sure just like you, we have a bunch of chat groups going and stuff like that. And here we have Clearwater Beach, and there's thousands of people out there, and we're like, what the hell are these people doing out there? Nobody's shutting it down. And that's what I'm really afraid of, is that that's going to be the same thing, almost, because there are a lot of tourists. So now these people are done here, and then they go back to who knows what. Do you think that's pretty comparable?
Yeah, but Italy's dealt with everything very swiftly. So when all of those people came flooding out of Milan, some of them were just going to their beach house, or they were going to their house in the mountains because they figured they would be, safer there. But what in fact ended up happening was people ended up congregating or aggregating, and filling up like mountain resorts, or filling up, beach resorts. And Italy was onto that almost immediately. So mountains got shut down, all of the lifts got shut down for skiing straight away. The press came out, the prime minister came out and said, this is not acceptable. This is not why we did it. We're not trying to take people out of one area and put them into another area where they're also unsafe. And they actually locked down the beaches as well. Damn. So that people, because the weather's not great here, it's not like in Florida where maybe it's really warm, but people would go out and walk and do that Italian thing where you link arms and you walk down the waterfront and you meet up with your friends and you have a chat. And they just nixed it straight away, day after, done.
I mean, you're where you are now, and you're seeing the steps that we're taking and the things that are happening in the U.S. Do you think we're in big trouble, or what do you think about?
I think the scariest thing about the virus is that most people, like so many people, can be asymptomatic, which they can be walking around infecting other people with the virus, and they have absolutely zero idea that they themselves are positive with the virus. And that's one of the reasons how the virus took off in Italy in the first place, is the guy just had no idea whatsoever that he had the virus. The numbers escalate quickly. Like you start and you have this, like, everybody's talking about the curve all the time, and like, and flattening the curve. So at the start you have these low numbers and you're like, oh, well, that's only 100 or 200 people. But now they're quoting statistics today about America that you're having 76% increase in numbers daily now, which is the highest like increase rate of any country in the world.
Yep.
And there are just really a lot of you guys. Like Italy is about 60 million people, but America is 330 million people or something. Like there's potential for you guys to have an exponential growth with numbers that have got nothing to do with Italy, which is relatively speaking a small country.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. That's very scary. I agree. And I've been watching the numbers every night, and it's definitely alarming. Living situation. I mean, I know you're quarantined. How long have you been quarantined?
12 days. Yay.
I mean, what are your thoughts on being quarantined? Do you think it's for the best? What are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. I think it's 100% necessary. I think that a lot of people think it's an exaggeration and that it's too much to put people in actual lockdown. But I don't think there's any way around it at the end of the day, because it's a virus that is passed through close contact between people. So, the whole point of this is that in Italy, we're trying to have contact with as few people as possible. And aside from Gabriele, my boyfriend, I have seen in the last week, like 3 people. I went to the pharmacy to buy something, and I went to the wine shop, which I have props, to buy essentials.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have, I want to see the pass. Do you have the actual, like, the thing that they sent out saying that
Yeah.
what you have to do?
Yeah. So,
Oh, it's in Italian, right?
yeah, when I go outside, I have to fill in a piece of paper, and it has my name and my address, my like identity card, kind of like your social number, I guess, social security number, has my phone number on it, and it has my reason for being outside of the house. So if I get stopped by the police, then I can justify what I'm doing. The first day that coronavirus really got announced in Italy, people went crazy for one day. People were a little bit scared about food resources and toilet paper resources for one day. But if you walk into my supermarket now, even though it's tiny, there's every single thing. I could buy 20 packets of toilet paper if I wanted to, and nobody would stop me. All of that is functioning really normally. If everybody calms down a little bit and just shops for what they need, everything will be completely fine.
You looking at our scenario and having lived yours up to this point, what advice would you have for anybody that's watching right now?
Well, I mean, honestly, for you guys, I really hope that everybody goes into lockdown really soon. The sooner that we do it, the sooner it will be over for everybody. I think in Italy, we wish that everybody was tracking on the same schedule as us, because now we feel like we're going to come out and then everybody else is going to still be in lockdown. The first few days feels a little bit like you got extra vacation from work, and maybe you binge watch a whole bunch of Netflix and sit in your pajamas all day. But eventually, I think it's important a little bit to establish a routine.
One more question, because I know a couple people asked this on that post. A lot of people are concerned about looting and theft and things like that. Has there been any raise? I feel like there's been probably a decline in crime. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, because not only the police are out anyway, because they're checking on us. So, I mean, this whole idea of carrying around your piece of paper is legit. People are arguing. My friend got checked the other day as he was underneath his house trying to get cigarettes out of a cigarette machine. And the police came and checked him and asked him what he was doing and sent him straight back home. Because there's no one on the street. So as the police are circulating around to make sure that, everybody's behaving the way that they're supposed to behave, if you're doing something that's strange, like, you stand out like a sore thumb. So really that's not a problem at all.
The general consensus for the locals, do you think it's panic, or is it relaxed, or how are they feeling right now? What do you get from that?
I think everybody's really at peace with the situation. I think the best thing that we did here was that pretty much everybody went into lockdown together, even though there was part of the North that did it first. But when you're all in the same situation, nobody is different. I think there's a kind of reassurance in that. And we all feel good about that. And Italians, you've seen on the news, they're really rallying and they're having events, and people are getting out on their balconies and terraces or their windows and playing musical instruments. There's a lot of news about people supporting the elderly who can't go outside. So it's really created a new sense of community, I think. And that's reassuring that we're having contact, we're interacting as human beings. We're just not doing it actually in person. Yeah.
That's amazing. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you all the best. I do. And I will see you next summer, looking like.
Really? I was hoping I'd see you sometime this year.
Nope. Can't. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Later.
Ciao.